Hi everyone. All right, we're into week number 4. I have a special guest with me today, Barkley. Barkley, say hi. No? Okay. He's insisting on sitting in my lap right now, which is fine with me because he's an adorable puppy. I am coming to you from my super high-tech office at home, which is a corner of an upstairs that I have carved out. As you can see, my very high-tech and up-to-date wood paneling and drop ceiling. So that'll keep you company through this visit in our weekly update today. That's fun. Anyway, we got a bunch of stuff we need to talk about today. You should have received your paper number 1 confirmation email from me. So that's great. You've got that done. You only have 2 larger papers left to do. But we still have a couple things that we need to talk about this week, so bear with me as I walk through the modules just to make sure that everybody is on track. So let's take a walk through and see what's going on this week. All right, got weekly update number 4. This update, what I would like you to do, as I've been doing the past couple weeks, I've been asking you to talk about something that I've mentioned in my weekly update itself. So what I would like you to do this time is actually talk about the fallacies that you see most often. Now that you've had a chance to actually go through the fallacies, write a little paper about the fallacies. I just said little paper. I don't mean to like be condescending. I know you spend a lot of time on it. I want you to kind of think about what fallacies you think you see most often. Now that you've had a little bit more experience understanding what they are, finding some examples, all that sort of stuff. So tell me about which ones you see the most often. In addition to writing your post, this week I'm asking you to actually respond to somebody else's response as well. Sometimes people have done that already, but this time it's part of the grade for this week. So what I want you to do is just comment on somebody else's response. You might go through and read it and say like, yeah, wow, I actually noticed the same sort of thing, or wow, I guess I didn't think of it from that perspective. Some of those ideas. So you're going to go through, read other people's responses. If you're the first person to respond, you're obviously going to have to wait until other people do respond. But make sure you're actually responding to something that they're discussing in the post itself. So for example, if they're talking about, you know, like the appeal to tradition fallacy, for instance, I don't want you to kind of rehash what you said. Be like, yeah, while you see hasty generalization, or while you see appeal to tradition, I actually see hasty generalization. Really respond to something that they're actually saying. So that's your weekly response number 4. And then, let's see, is my internet going to, sorry, my glasses are also kind of glary right now, so it's a little bit like weird. All right, the next thing you're going to have to do, so you do your discussion post. Next thing in the module is actually a peer review, kind of a peer review. You're going to be reading somebody else's paper. Everybody has been assigned a paper to read, so when you go on Canvas, you should see a little thing in the upper right corner of like your to-do list. It should say like a peer review as well, so you will see that button. And when you get to that point in the modules where it says review P1 examples, that's what I'm referring to, is that little peer review that you're going to see up in the corner. So let's take a look and see what it says here. Remember paper number 1? Of course you do, you just turned it in. Let's take a look at what some of your classmates did. I've randomly assigned each of you to do 1 paper. It should show up as a to-do item when you log on to Canvas, which is what I just said. Please read through the descriptions and watch the examples. Afterwards, write a short response to the author. So read through the descriptions and watch the examples. What I mean by that is actually read their paper, and if they have like YouTube links or anything like that, watch those examples that they've posted. Look at the descriptions that they've written about, all that sort of stuff. And then afterwards, write a short response to the author. Your response should discuss how effectively or ineffectively the examples demonstrated the logical fallacy. Please be specific and indicate whose sample you're reading. So if you have been assigned, you know, like Joe Smith's paper or whatever, we don't have a Joe Smith in this class, you know, just random name. Make sure you're saying in your discussion post, I'm responding to Joe Smith or whatever. So that way when they go through and read your response, they can actually look for their name in the discussion post. Please be specific. Oh, I just said that. Your response should be approximately 200 words, and then post your response on this discussion page. So this is just a discussion board post. You're not actually like emailing it to that person, but it's going to be available for everybody to see. So also make sure, you know, that it's appropriate and you're not like slamming that person, because it will be on the discussion board and everybody will be able to see these reviews. So just make sure that you're doing that. All right, and if you do have trouble accessing the peer review, just shoot me an email and I'll be able to walk you through it. All right, let's take a look. We do have quite a bit of work this week, so it is going to be a busier week. So I just want to give you a like heads up to brace for impact, I guess. All right, our next paper, you're like, come on, we just finished one. Now I've got to do another one. Let's talk through this one. This one's called Experiencing Persuasion. This one actually has you go out and do something. So that's kind of, you know, different for a paper. You get to actually go out and write about an experience you had. But let's talk through this. This is 1,200 words. Document design is about 12 point Times New Roman or Calibri, you know, normal stuff that when you open Word, it's just set up that way. This one's 16% of your final grade. Paper number 1 was 14%. We do have 2 corresponding readings. Reading part 1 and reading part 2, which are in this week's module. They're not from our textbook. They're actually 2 different readings from different textbooks, or they're kind of collected from different readings itself. So you'll see that when you actually open it up or when you get to that point in the module, it's not from our textbook, but it is related to everything that we've been talking about so far. And this is due Sunday, June 11th. So we've got 2 weeks on this one. All right, so here's our checklist. Like I said before, I like little checklists. I like to-do lists when I'm actually, you know, trying to put together a project. So we have here, identify a situation in which you will encounter persuasion. Submit your topic on Canvas for approval. I'm going to pause there for a quick second. Several of you have done that already. Awesome. I haven't actually gone through and like approved them, but I will actually after I'm done recording this video. But I'll talk about that more in just a minute. Expose yourself to the situation and take notes on your experience, and then write an analytical reflection paper on the experience. All right, so let's take a look at what the assignment asks for you to do. The assignment: identify a situation in which you will encounter persuasion. This assignment requires you to place yourself in a situation where you'll be persuaded to do something, buy something, believe something, etc. The assignment requires you to set yourself up as a target of a professional salesperson or other persuasion expert to analyze their experiences using fundamental persuasion, argumentation, and logic concepts. All right, so that's the basic paper itself. So you're going to oh, there goes Barkley. He decided to move around. Come on, come on. Now he's like my little like lumbar support. He'll probably sigh in a minute because he breathes really funny. All right, submit a topic on Canvas for approval. Please post your topic on the discussion board named P2, Topic Approval. And there's a link in the actual paper description itself, so if you just click on that, it'll take you right there. It's also in the modules this week, so you can just click through it. Noting where you're going for your field work. I'll approve all topics as long as they're safe and cause no potential harm to you. Expose yourself to the situation and take notes on your experience. Oh, actually, let me back up to that approval point. And I just want to say, I only ask that you submit your topic just because I've had some people say that they want to go like to different places that are a little bit sketchier that could potentially pose some harm to them. And this is just for a paper for an English class. And I don't want to put anybody in harm's way. So I really want you to think a little carefully about where you're going to go beforehand and then actually post it just to make sure that everything is legit. So I'm just kind of looking out for your best interest. All right. Expose yourself to the situation and take notes on your experience. This assignment requires you to set yourself up as a target, a professional salesperson, or other persuasion expert. To simulate a realistic experiment, I will not explicitly instruct you on how to approach a situation. So I don't want you to go in there I'm not going to say, all right, you have to go in there, you know, very emotionally detached or strongly resistant. I just want you to go in very naturally. Rather, simply behave as you would if you were just going in there. Let's say you go to Art Van or something who has, no offense to anybody who works at Art Van or knows anybody that works at Art Van, but anytime I've gone in there, their salespeople are very pushy. You know, so if you just go in there very naturally and you're just saying, oh, I'm just looking for a couch, they will still be on you about like, you know, let's look at these. Let's see if we can buy them. So just go in there very naturally, not with a very specific mindset. You know, not to say I'm going to be very resistant or I'm going to be anything along those lines. All right. Examples of tactics and concepts. Ooh, I just noticed an error in my assignment description here. It says these are from the handout reading. That's the reading from this week, part 1 and part 2, it should say. It's not labeled as handout. It should just say part 1 or part 2. I'll change that after I'm done with this video. All right, so here are the examples of tactics and concepts. Foot in the door in the face, and that's not all. Slowly escalating commitment, the illusion of choice, conformity and social proof, conveying illusions of authority, honesty, and likability, and the base rate fallacy and negativity bias. So those are different types of concepts that you're going to see, and you can probably get the idea of what they are just by looking at the titles of them, but all the descriptions for those different concepts are in the reading for this week. All right, sample persuasion experts and situations. You might go to car, jewelry, stereo, furniture, insurance salesperson, a timeshare seminar, parties to sell Tupperware, kitchenware, photo albums, candles, anything, you know, like 31, or is it 31, 21? I can't remember. I know, like, my cousin sells, is it Rulala? I can't. Lula, I'm sorry. She sells that and is, like, constantly on me to buy stuff from there. You know, anything where people, you know, like, have, like, a party at their house and try to sell, like, a certain product. A military recruiter, be careful about that one. I am not asking anybody to sign up for the military unless that is already in your plans. Funeral arrangement coordinators, street hustlers, Scientology, Mooney, and other religious recruiters. Again, be careful. Just be cautious. And psychics. Those are just some ideas. That is not an exhaustive list. You can choose anything that kind of comes into your brain. Ethical precautions. It's important that you take precautions against placing yourself in unsafe situations. You must have your topic approved by me before carrying out the assignment. Occasionally, it might be necessary to suggest an alternative scenario if a proposed situation is too risky. Everything I mentioned before. Most cults, for example, are excellent illustrations of persuasion. Oh, here comes Barkley again. Hi, Barkley. Say hello. Are excellent examples of persuasion, but I generally advise you... Come on. Decide. Come on. I don't know what this dog is doing. Also, okay. What is happening? Okay. Let me just restart that sentence. Most cults, for example, are excellent illustrations of persuasion, but I generally advise you not to subject yourself directly to their influence. Also, in situations where you will likely encounter hard sell salespeople, use your best judgment about what point to exit the encounter. For example, if you're visiting a car lot, don't go beyond the test drive. Like, don't start filling out paperwork or anything like that. Note, for this paper, I am not asking you to buy anything. That is not the point. You're just going in and experiencing the persuasion that somebody is trying to use to get you to buy something. Don't buy anything unless it was already in your budget to do so. So if your family is looking for a new couch, or you and your roommate are looking for a new apartment or something like that, and you already have like the mindset of buying something, that's fine. But don't think that I'm trying to ask you to buy anything for this assignment. So just want to let you know that. And let's take a look at the analytical reflection part of this assignment. So after you've experienced persuasion, all that sort of stuff, you're going to write a reflection on this. Your reflection paper should provide readers with an overview of the entire persuasive experience. Be sure you include the following 3 ideas, and you can split your paper up into these 3 different sections. That's fine. Analyze the tactics, persuasive concepts, and or logical fallacies. Maybe you saw some of those in play that were employed during your experience. Reflect on how you responded to the tactics. So you're going to identify what you saw, and then you're going to say, how did you notice yourself responding to them? Did you get angry? Did you kind of, not fight back, that's not the right way of saying it, but did you kind of speak in a different way? Did you like maybe get defensive, perhaps? Just kind of note how you responded to those tactics. And then finally, articulate how you or someone you know could more effectively resist similar persuasion attempts in the future. So if you were to go back to that place, knowing what you know after you've experienced the persuasion, what would you do differently? Or would you have your guard up? for example, or let's go back to that Art Van example that I used a second ago. Now that I go back into Art Van and I know that a salesperson is going to be very aggressive, I might say, okay, I'll give you the sale, but let me just look around by myself first. Something like that. Let's take a look at how I'm going to grade this. Papers are evaluated based on your ability to draw connections between the persuasion strategies that you learned in class and during the readings, and your actual experiences as targets of influence. So I'm going to be looking at how you connect those 3 different ideas that I just mentioned. So be sure you include the following 3 ideas, those 3 that I just went through. I'm going to be making sure that you expand on all 3 of those. All right, so that's paper number 2. And again, that's due in 2 weeks. I know it's spring semester. It's fast, so it does speed it up a little bit. If you have questions about this paper, you can always email me or post it in the Discussions to Kim discussion board. So please make sure you're taking advantage of those if you have any questions at any point. All right. I have posted 3 sample papers for you to take a look at, so make sure you take a look through those to get an idea of what this paper is supposed to be about. So that way you get a better idea how they're set up, what I'm looking for, how things are written. So those are available for you on Canvas. It's the next little module tab as you're clicking through it. Oh, Bark was on the move. Oh, no, I thought he was. All right, so then you have a couple readings. So I have reading part 1. It's a little clunky at this point. It says reading part 1 is available on the next page. I don't know why it doesn't put it on the same page. And then there's reading part 1. Should load up for you. You can either download, it's just a PDF, you can just download it. It should be good. I tried rotating some of the pages so it's easier to read. Hopefully they are all straightforward. I have indicated in there, you'll see like a little like start here, end here moments in the reading. So just be on the lookout for those so you don't spend extra time reading stuff that you don't need to. So we do have reading part 1. And then you have a little response. Like I said, I know this week is pretty work heavy. So I apologize about that, but it is spring semester, so we do have a lot to get through in these 7 short weeks. So reading part 1, your response, think about the 6 situations discussed in the reading. Those 6 situations are in italics, so you'll see those throughout the reading. Come with an example that you could apply to each situation and post these examples in your discussion post. These situations can be taken from real-life examples that you would have experienced, or you can think about situations where you would imagine these situations occurring. For each situation example, write about 50 to 75 words. So it's just a couple sentences. So it's a short little response for each situation. So you're going to do that, the 50 to 75 words for each of the 6 situations. So you're going to do that 50 to 75 words 6 times. And that's just going to be a discussion post, and that's linked in the module. As it's actually what I'm reading, that's the discussion post. Then we've got reading part 2. Once again, reading part 2 is on the next page. Very clunky. Thanks, Canvas. And then you've got just another PDF there. This one looks just like a Word doc, actually. It's probably me just summarizing some information. It's just looks through the concepts. These kind of go through the different things that are on the actual paper number 2. So you might see these will be very familiar to you because you've heard me say these words, you know, like, and that's not all, or let's see, what's the second one here? Let me scroll through. There's always a choice, stuff like that. So it'll look fairly familiar. And then finally, the last thing, I think the last thing in the module, you're like, is there an end to this module? Topic approval, paper 2 topic approval. And you're just going to actually post what you're going to do. You don't have to write anything out very specifically. You could just say, I'm going to go to blank. That's fine. And then I'll approve it. And like I said, there are several of you who have posted that already. After I'm done with this, I'll go through and just say, yep, good to go on this. So it's a very quick portion of this week's work. So it just says P2 topic approval. Please post your topic for paper 2, experiencing persuasion. In your post, please be sure to indicate where you plan to go, what you're anticipating, and one backup place. Ooh, that's what I forgot to mention. In case your first place doesn't work out. I'll respond to each post as quickly as I can. So the reason why I ask for a backup place is just to get you thinking ahead. Like, let's say you plan to go to a furniture store. And you go, and let's say for some reason the salespeople aren't pushy and you don't get any information. It's really hard to write a paper if you don't have any information about it. That way you've already thought ahead about another place you want to go, and you could say, all right, I've thought about my backup place, I'm ready to go there. So you don't have to actually start from scratch, you already have something ready to roll. Most people work out or luck out on their first choice, but I just want you to think of a backup in the event that something happens. And I think, yeah, that's it. Finally. Okay. Week 4 is a lot, but you'll get through it. If you have questions, let me know. If something isn't working, let me know. I'll be busy grading papers this week too, so hopefully you'll get some grades back on those as well. It is Memorial Day, so thanks to our vets. Obviously it is Memorial Day, so, remembering people who have, sacrificed themselves in combat and stuff like that. So, if you have family and that has happened to you, so thanks for that. But I hope you celebrate however you do, or, if you don't, or I guess just maybe you have the day off, I guess just enjoy that as well. And I will see you next week, hopefully not in my 70s space. All right, Barkley, say goodbye. Bye. He's got a little bow tie from his groomer. Isn't that cute? Bye, everyone.